Officer Marcus Daniels had seen emergencies before: fights, accidents, stolen vehicles, but nothing prepared him for the tension that gripped him the moment the call came through. A child in danger, a house on Pine Street. The dispatcher's voice trembled ever so slightly. Unit 47, possible medical emergency, child not responding. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel of his cruiser. Pine Street was the kind of suburban lane where life seemed quiet, almost unreal. Small brick homes lined the road, trimmed lawns stretching like green carpets under the pale afternoon sun. Children's bicycles lay in driveways, and the scent of freshly cut grass lingered in the air. Nothing about this street suggested danger, but Marcus had learned long ago to trust instincts over appearances. Rex, his German shepherd partner, sensed it too. The dog's ears twitched at the radio, his body taut, tail rigid. Marcus had worked with Rex for 7 years, and when Rex's demeanor changed, Marcus listened. The dog didn't panic without reason. By the time they arrived, the sun was dipping behind a row of trees, shadows stretching across the quiet street. The house in question was small, unassuming, and slightly run down, with peeling white paint and a crooked mailbox. The front door was ajar, swaying gently, creaking in the breeze. Marcus cut the engine, heart hammering. He grabbed his flashlight and motioned to Rex. The dog bounded out of the cruiser before Marcus could say a word, sniffing the air, growling softly. But then the growl turned into frantic barking, short, sharp, desperate. Marcus froze. He had heard Rex bark dozens of times at burglars, at fires, at drug stashes. But this was different. This was terror. Marcus stepped cautiously inside, scanning the dim living room. The faint gray light from outside fell through the blinds, casting striped shadows across the floor. The air smelled faintly of burnt wiring and something metallic. Then he saw her. A little girl no more than 8 lay on the carpet. Her body was unnaturally still, her limbs stiff. Her dark eyes were wide, staring straight at him, shimmering with fear and confusion. Her small fingers twitched slightly as if trying to reach out, but she could not. Marcus dropped to his knees beside her, fumbling for her pulse. Weak, irregular, but alive. Relief flooded him, but it was cut with a sharper, colder fear. Something wasn't right. Rex barked again, circling the girl, refusing to leave her side. His paws scratched at the carpet urgently, his hackles raised. Marcus noticed the dog's gaze flicking repeatedly toward a small corner of the room. He followed the line of sight and froze. A wooden crate pushed against the wall, half hidden under a toppled chair, was humming faintly. Wires protruded from its corners, curling like snakes. Metal containers inside rattled softly, as if alive. Marcus's stomach turned. This wasn't just a medical emergency, it was a potential death trap. As he approached, a faint click echoed through the room. Marcus's hand instinctively went to his holster, but his other arm remained around the girl. Rex growled low, deep, warning him not to proceed carelessly. Whoever or whatever had set this up wasn't gone. Someone had been in the house, someone who wanted the girl trapped, helpless. Marcus's mind raced. He had to get her out, but moving too quickly could trigger something in the crate or alert the hidden observer. He gently lifted the girl, her small body trembling against his chest. Her eyes locked on him, pleading, and Marcus felt a lump rise in his throat. She couldn't speak, couldn't explain what had happened, but she trusted him. Somehow that was enough. Rex barked again, more insistently, directing Marcus toward the front door. Marcus sprinted across the room, clutching the girl, feeling the pulse of fear in her small frame. Outside, the air was cooler, but it didn't bring relief, just a sharp reminder that time was slipping away. He noticed footprints in the garden, small, hurried, almost frantic, leading into the shadows of the neighboring trees. Someone had been following, watching, and now they might be coming back. Marcus hoisted the girl into the passenger seat of the cruiser, Rex leaping in beside them. His chest heaved, sweat stinging his eyes. He glanced back at the house one last time, the crate still sitting ominously in the corner, its secrets silent for now. Something or someone remained in the shadows, and Marcus knew their nightmare was far from over. As he started the engine, he whispered to Rex, "We're getting her out of this, boy, whatever it takes." Rex barked once, sharp and urgent, as if answering, "Yes, but the real danger is still here." The streets were quiet, the suburban calm a thin veil over the storm they had just escaped. Marcus's eyes never left the road ahead, but his mind replayed every detail, every shadow, every sound. One thing was certain, this little girl had survived something no child should ever face, and whatever came next, Marcus knew they were only at the beginning. The hospital's fluorescent lights felt cold and sterile, a harsh contrast to the terror of the house Marcus had just escaped. He carried the girl into the emergency room, every step weighted with urgency. Nurses converged instantly, their movements precise and rehearsed. They whisked her away, wheeling her toward the trauma bay, while Marcus followed, his heart pounding in rhythm with her fragile pulse. Rex stayed at the entrance, ears flat, growling low, refusing to leave the little girl's side. Marcus patted his shoulder, whispering, "She's in good hands now, boy." But the dog's agitation didn't ease. Something about this wasn't over, something wasn't right. Marcus paced the hallway, replaying the scene in his mind. The crate, the wires, the faint hum of some unseen mechanism. The girl hadn't just been immobile, she had been trapped, a silent hostage to a danger that Marcus hadn't yet fully grasped. And Rex, trained to detect explosives, drugs, and imminent threats, had acted as if the danger was alive, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. A nurse approached, holding a small, crumpled note she had found near the crate at the house. Marcus took it carefully, unfolding the paper. The handwriting was shaky, almost childlike, but the words were chilling. "He will come back, he wants her to suffer." A cold knot formed in Marcus's stomach. Someone had deliberately targeted this child, and the crate had been part of a larger plan. But why? And why had Rex reacted the way he did, as if the danger itself had presence? Marcus's thoughts were interrupted by the soft beeping of the girl's monitors. He peered into the room where she lay, her tiny chest rising and falling under the sterile white sheets. Her eyes fluttered, then opened, wide and scared, meeting his gaze. Marcus felt a lump rise in his throat. She couldn't speak, but in that moment her eyes told a story of terror and helplessness far deeper than any words could convey. Detective Harris arrived, his coat flapping slightly as he ducked into the ER. He was older, experienced, and calm under pressure, but even he looked shaken at the sight of the girl and the frantic dog at her side. "Your dog, he saved her," Harris said quietly, nodding toward Rex, who sat alert, staring into the room as if expecting the threat to return at any moment. Marcus shook his head, running a hand over his face. "No, he wasn't saving her, he was warning me, warning us, something's still out there." Harris frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The crate," Marcus said, voice tight. "It wasn't just a trap. Whoever did this, they were watching. They expected someone to come for her. And Rex, he knew, he could feel it. Something was alive in that house, waiting." Harris's brow furrowed. "Alive?" Marcus shook his head. "Not alive like a person, but dangerous. Something about the setup, chemicals, wires, and the way Rex reacted. It's like it was anticipating someone or something coming back." The words hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. Marcus glanced at the girl again. Her hand twitched slightly, brushing the sheet. He leaned closer, softly whispering, "We're going to protect you, I promise." Then just as he stepped back, Rex barked, a sharp, single bark that sliced through the low hum of machines. Marcus froze. The dog's ears were rigid, eyes locked on the hallway. Marcus followed the line of Rex's gaze and spotted a janitor's cart rolling slowly, almost imperceptibly, down the hallway. But there was no janitor in sight, just the shadows. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. The little girl wasn't just a victim, she was a witness. Someone had planned this carefully, designed it so that even the smallest movement could trigger disaster, and she, paralyzed and silent, had survived by some chance or by Rex's extraordinary instincts. Marcus glanced back at the note again. "He will come back, he wants her to suffer." The words reverberated through his mind. Someone knew she had survived, someone knew Rex had intervened, and now, Marcus realized with a sinking heart, they wouldn't stop. The crate had been only the beginning. Whoever was behind this was watching, learning, waiting for their next move. As he looked at the little girl's wide, fearful eyes, Marcus made a silent vow. Whoever had orchestrated this nightmare would pay. He would uncover every detail, track every shadow, and make sure she, and every child at risk, was safe. But deep down, Marcus knew something else. Rex's warning wasn't just about what had already happened. It was about what was coming, and he had no idea just how close it already was. Outside the hospital room, the shadows seemed to stretch longer, darker, moving almost imperceptibly. Marcus's hand tightened around Rex's collar. Whatever game the perpetrator was playing, he realized with a sinking certainty, it was far from over. The silent scream of danger had not ended. The next morning, the hospital had a deceptive calm. Sunlight spilled through the windows, bouncing off the sterile white walls, giving the impression that all was well. But Marcus knew better. Every shadow, every movement outside the window felt like a warning. Rex, his German shepherd partner, sat alert beside him, ears swiveling at every distant sound. The dog hadn't relaxed since the night before. Marcus had barely slept. His mind replayed every detail from the house, the crate, the wires, the faint chemical smell, the footprints in the garden. Someone had targeted this child. Someone who had watched her, studied her, and set a trap designed to strike fear into anyone who tried to intervene. And now, after the girl had survived, Marcus knew one terrifying truth: they weren't finished. Detective Harris entered the hospital room carrying a laptop. "We traced the handwriting on the note," he said quietly. "It's not just random. It matches posts on obscure forums, pages dedicated to watching, manipulating, and controlling children in vulnerable situations." Marcus's stomach dropped. What, why, who would, why a little girl? Harris shook his head. "It doesn't make sense unless it isn't personal, it's systematic. The child isn't the target, she's the message." Marcus glanced at the girl. She lay on the hospital bed, small and fragile, her eyes tracking the movement of nurses as if searching for invisible threats. Her paralyzed body betrayed no hint of fear outwardly, but Marcus could feel it. Rex's growl, low and warning, told him what her eyes couldn't. Danger lingered here, danger that had already marked her as prey. Then Marcus noticed something odd. A janitor passed by, pushing a cart with quiet efficiency. But Rex stiffened instantly, growling, eyes fixed. Marcus followed the dog's gaze. The janitor's cart was empty. No one else was in the hall. Still, Rex barked, snapping once sharply, then pawed at the hallway floor. Marcus's pulse quickened. "Rex, what is it?" he whispered. The dog bolted ahead, leading Marcus to a side corridor, usually closed to the public. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and something else, something acrid and chemical. Marcus followed, flashlight in hand, heart hammering. At the end of the corridor was a small utility closet. Rex pawed at the door insistently. Marcus hesitated, then turned the knob. Inside, the closet was empty except for a small black duffel bag, unzipped, wires spilling out like the remains of the crate at the house. Marcus froze. Whoever had done this wasn't finished. They had followed them, placed another device, another trap. Harris arrived moments later, drawn by Rex's barking. He peered into the closet, his face paling. "It's a setup," he said grimly. "They're testing the waters, trying to see how we react." Marcus's mind raced. Someone had planned this meticulously. Surveillance cameras, hidden microphones, every detail of the girl's house, the hospital, even their response, everything was being monitored. And the note, "He will come back, he wants her to suffer," wasn't just a threat, it was a statement. Outside the room, the little girl's small voice, or maybe her mind, seemed to reach them. Her eyes darted toward the window, then toward the side door, tracking invisible movements. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. She couldn't speak, couldn't run, couldn't protect herself, but Rex had sensed it all. The dog's instincts had picked up a threat they hadn't even been aware of. Marcus and Harris exchanged a look. They were dealing with a predator unlike any they had faced before, one who didn't just target children physically, but psychologically. One who calculated, watched, and manipulated. And now, with another device planted in the hospital, Marcus realized how close the danger had become. He thought back to the footprints at the house, the shadowed figure moving just out of sight and the crate humming ominously in the corner. Whoever this was, they were brilliant, patient, and cruel, and they had already won one part of the game. They had put fear into the heart of a child and left it to ripple outward into the lives of everyone who tried to help her. Rex barked again, urgent and sharp, as if sensing movement through the hospital walls. Marcus followed the dog's gaze but saw nothing. Still, the warning was clear. The threat was near, watching, waiting. Marcus felt a cold certainty settle over him. The little girl wasn't just a victim. She was the key to understanding something much larger, and the predator wasn't done, not by a long shot. As the sun rose higher, casting shadows across the hospital floor, Marcus clenched his fists. He would protect her. He would find the person behind this, and he would stop them before anyone else was hurt. But as he glanced at Rex, still growling softly, his heart sank. This was bigger than either of them had imagined, and the predator was closer than they knew. Outside the window, the world went about its normal rhythm, oblivious to the danger that lurked in the shadows, waiting for its next move. The game had only just begun. Marcus barely had a moment to catch his breath before the hospital's quiet tension erupted into chaos. The little girl's monitors started beeping erratically, high-pitched, urgent, demanding attention. Nurses rushed in, their movements fast but cautious, trying to stabilize her fragile vitals. Marcus's heart pounded, but he kept his gaze on Rex, who stood rigid, eyes scanning the room as if trying to pierce through walls. Something was wrong, something beyond monitors, beyond wires, beyond any medical emergency. Marcus glanced back at the hallway where Rex had been growling earlier. The dog's hackles were raised, tail stiff, pawing the floor, barking low, controlled but urgent. Marcus understood immediately. Rex had sensed another threat, and it wasn't humanly visible. He could feel the tension coiling around him like a spring. Before Marcus could ask questions, a faint, metallic clinking echoed from the janitor's corridor. He stiffened, eyes narrowing. Every instinct screamed that someone had followed them into the hospital, not just to watch, but to interfere. Marcus had seen enough setups, enough traps, to know this wasn't coincidence. He grabbed the little girl's medical backpack, scanning it quickly. Her alert device, a small, inconspicuous device strapped to her chest, blinked red. Someone had tampered with it. Marcus's pulse surged. If triggered, it could send out a signal, maybe even activate something hidden. He clutched the girl tighter, feeling her small frame shiver in his arms. "Stay with me," Marcus whispered, glancing down at her wide, frightened eyes. She blinked, almost imperceptibly, as if she understood. Rex barked again, snapping Marcus out of his thoughts. The dog was insisting. They couldn't wait for backup. They had to act now. Marcus bolted toward the exit, weaving through the busy hospital corridors. Nurses shouted directions, startled by his urgency, but Marcus didn't stop. He had seen Rex respond like this before, never in vain. Outside, the wind whipped across the empty parking lot, cold against Marcus's face. He scanned the surrounding streets, noticing faint footprints in the gravel, footprints that hadn't been there when they arrived. Someone had followed them from Pine Street, or the hospital wasn't as secure as they thought. Marcus set the girl down gently in the cruiser's backseat, her frail body trembling. Rex leapt in beside her, still alert, still growling. Marcus checked the rearview mirror, eyes darting for movement. Every second felt like a countdown, each tick of the clock echoing in his mind. Whoever had orchestrated the crate at her home wasn't done. They were learning, watching, anticipating every move. He started the engine, tires squealing slightly as he sped out of the lot. His mind raced. Where could they go? Where could they hide her so she would be safe, truly safe? Then he remembered the hidden crate in the hospital closet. He realized with a jolt this wasn't just about the girl. Whoever was behind this had access to every place she went. They weren't just playing games, they were tracking, testing, learning. Marcus felt a cold dread settle over him. The little girl's life depended on outsmarting a predator who had already demonstrated cunning and cruelty far beyond anything he had seen. A sudden vibration in the backpack made Marcus flinch. The medical alert device, someone had modified it remotely. Marcus yanked it from the girl's chest. Sparks of panic flared through him. If it had triggered, the consequences could have been catastrophic, but as he examined the device, he noticed something even more disturbing. A microchip embedded beneath the panel, something he didn't recognize, foreign and dangerous. Rex barked again, snapping Marcus's attention to the rearview mirror. A van, blacked out, moved silently behind them, keeping pace. Marcus's stomach tightened. The predator was already on the move, shadowing them. He gritted his teeth. "Hang on, girl," he muttered. He slammed the accelerator down, weaving through side streets, turning sharply to lose the van. The girl clung weakly to her blanket, her eyes wide and fearful, but Marcus could see a flicker of trust in her gaze. She knew he would protect her. Minutes stretched into a lifetime. Every turn, every shadow, every distant hum of traffic was a potential threat. Marcus's mind raced, trying to anticipate the predator's next move. But one thing was certain: the house had been a test, the hospital had been a warning, and now, as the van followed relentlessly behind them, the predator was escalating. Rex barked again, fierce and commanding, forcing Marcus to make a decision. He turned sharply down a narrow alley, tires skidding against the asphalt. The van followed, too large to navigate the turn cleanly. Marcus allowed himself a brief surge of hope. But the adrenaline surge was temporary. Somewhere out there, the predator was still learning, and Marcus knew, with a chilling certainty, that this race against time was only beginning. As they disappeared into the maze of city streets, the little girl's eyes clung to Marcus, and Rex's growls never ceased. Danger was near, danger was relentless, and Marcus understood fully that the predator would not stop until they had what they wanted, or until someone was destroyed. The countdown had begun. The safe house was supposed to be just that, safe. Marcus had chosen it for its anonymity, tucked away in the industrial outskirts of town. A single-story brick building with boarded-up windows and an overgrown yard. It wasn't much to look at, but it was off the grid, invisible to most, and perfect for hiding a child who had become a target. Rex prowled the perimeter like a shadow, ears swiveling at every sound, growls low and warning. Marcus set the little girl down on a cot, wrapping her in a blanket, and sat beside her. Her small hands clutched his jacket, and for a moment she seemed almost calm, though her eyes darted nervously to the corners of the room. Marcus exhaled slowly. "You're safe here," he whispered, though he didn't fully believe it. The predator had already demonstrated intelligence, patience, and cruelty beyond anything Marcus had ever seen. Whoever had orchestrated the crate at her house had watched every detail, anticipating every move. And now, after following them to the hospital, Marcus knew the predator wasn't done. Detective Harris arrived shortly after, carrying a laptop in a folder. His expression was grim. "We've traced the handwriting on that note further," he said, sitting across from Marcus. He opened the laptop and pulled up a series of forum posts, each more disturbing than the last. Threads detailed children with disabilities being monitored, controlled, and manipulated. The little girl wasn't an isolated target. She was part of something larger, something systematic. Marcus felt a cold dread settle in his chest. "Who is behind this?" he asked, voice tight. Harris shook his head. "We don't know yet, but we do know this. They've been watching her family for months. They know every routine, every location. And judging by the devices planted both at the house and the hospital, they're escalating." Rex growled suddenly, ears flat, eyes locked on the doorway. Marcus turned and froze. For a moment he saw nothing. Then from the shadows of the corner a small figure emerged. It wasn't the predator. It was a nurse who had been assigned to watch the girl's vitals during the night. but her expression was panicked, almost guilty. Marcus narrowed his eyes. "What is it?" The nurse swallowed hard. I found this," she said, handing over a crumpled envelope. Inside were dozens of handwritten notes, drawings, and letters. At first glance, they seemed harmless, the innocent scribblings of children, but the writing was detailed, systematic, and coordinated. It described routines, vulnerabilities, and fears, everything the predator could use to manipulate or harm them. Marcus's stomach churned. These weren't just observations. Someone was creating a record, a plan. The nurse nodded, trembling. I think she knows things she can't tell us, but she's been writing, drawing, recording. The little girl, she's been documenting the predator's moves." Harris leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "So she's not just a victim, she's a witness. And if she can communicate, even in the smallest ways, she could bring this predator down." Marcus's heart pounded. The realization hit him with the weight of a freight train. The girl had survived the crate, survived the hospital setup, not by chance, but because of what she had documented. Somehow, in her silence, she had gathered information, recorded patterns, and left clues for those who could help her. Rex barked sharply, breaking the heavy silence. Marcus followed the dog's gaze, and then he saw it, a tiny motion near the ventilation shaft. A shadow flitted across the far wall, too quick to be human, or at least, someone was moving with caution, avoiding detection. Marcus felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. Whoever had orchestrated this was watching even now. They weren't finished, and the girl, fragile and paralyzed, was at the center of it all. Harris looked at Marcus, voice low and urgent. "We need to move fast. Whoever this is, they're planning something next, and if we don't act, it won't just be her at risk, it'll be anyone connected to her. Friends, family, anyone trying to protect her." Marcus clenched his fists. "Then we act, now, we can't wait, she's counting on us." The little girl's eyes met Marcus's. For a moment her fear seemed to mix with determination, as if she knew something he didn't, but trusted him anyway. Rex nudged her gently, and she reached out, her small fingers brushing the dog's fur. Marcus felt a flicker of hope amid the fear. But outside, in the shadows, the predator waited, calculating their next move. The crate had been only the beginning. The hospital was just a warning. And now, the predator knew the girl had survived, had left clues behind. Marcus stood, tightening his jacket, and whispered to Rex, "We're going after them, whatever it takes." Rex barked sharply, his growl deep and unwavering, and Marcus knew they were ready. But as they prepared to leave, the hair on the back of his neck prickled. Somewhere nearby, someone was watching, learning, and waiting. The clock was ticking, and the next move could cost them everything. The night was thick with fog as Marcus drove, the little girl wrapped in a blanket in the passenger seat and Rex alert beside her. The safe house felt temporary, a fragile barrier against a predator who was clever, patient, and relentless. Marcus's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of evidence, the crate at her home, the tampered hospital device, the notes, the microchip, and a cold certainty settled over him. The person behind this wasn't just dangerous, they were brilliant. Rex suddenly growled, low and urgent, ears pinned back. Marcus's grip tightened on the steering wheel. The dog's gaze was fixed on something ahead, something beyond sight. Marcus slowed the car, scanning the foggy road. And then he saw it, a shadow slipping between the trees along the edge of the street, moving with deliberate stealth. "Rex," Marcus whispered, voice tight. The dog barked sharply, lunging forward in the seat, hackles raised. Marcus's pulse surged. Whoever it was, they weren't hiding, they were hunting, testing their prey even now. He took a sharp turn onto a narrow street, tires skidding slightly on the wet asphalt. The shadow followed, keeping pace, always at the edge of visibility. Marcus's heart hammered. This wasn't just surveillance, it was intimidation. A message, we're always watching. Arriving at an abandoned warehouse at the edge of town, Marcus killed the engine. The building was massive, dark, and silent, with boarded-up windows and a rusted iron gate. Rex immediately leapt out, sniffing the perimeter, growling at shadows that shifted in the dim streetlight. Marcus unbuckled the girl and carried her inside, flashlight cutting through the darkness. The warehouse smelled of rust, damp concrete, and something faintly chemical, the same smell from the crate at her house. Marcus's stomach twisted. He knew, instinctively, that they had found their next clue, and Rex's low growl told him that danger was near. They moved cautiously through the cavernous interior, the girl clinging weakly to Marcus, her wide eyes darting from shadow to shadow. Rex's barking was controlled but tense, a constant warning of something unseen. Then Marcus noticed it, a series of crates stacked along the far wall, each one like the one in her house, humming faintly with wires and small metal containers. Before Marcus could react, a door creaked behind them. He spun, flashlight illuminating the figure of a man leaning casually against the doorway. He was tall, thin, with a cold, calculating gaze that sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. You've been very clever, the man said, voice smooth, almost amused. Following the breadcrumbs, trusting your dog, but it won't save her. Marcus froze for a split second, then pushed the girl behind him. Who are you? What do you want? His voice was steady, but inside, adrenaline screamed. The man smiled thinly. You call her a victim, I call her a key. She's been documenting, watching, recording, and I need her notes. She knows more than she realizes. The little girl's eyes widened, and Marcus felt her tiny hand press against his leg, a silent plea for protection. Rex growled, advancing slightly, teeth bared. The man's gaze flicked to the dog, then back to Marcus. You see, he said, stepping closer, I've been observing her, testing her. The crate, the hospital, everything was part of an experiment, and now you've interfered. Marcus's blood ran cold. Experiment, you're playing with a child's life. The man's expression hardened. I am creating order. She holds information that cannot be left to chance, and now you will hand it over. Rex barked violently, lunging toward the man. Marcus grabbed the dog's collar, pulling him back. He knew a direct confrontation could be deadly. The crates, the microchips, the chemical devices, everything was designed to kill. The predator smirked. Ah yes, the dog, the protector, I underestimated him, but it won't matter. She is mine to control. Marcus felt a cold rage coil in his chest. She's not yours, she's not anyone's, and I swear. A loud metallic click echoed across the warehouse. Marcus froze. One of the crates had shifted slightly. Sparks flickered. The predator's eyes narrowed in recognition. Rex growled louder, warning Marcus, pulling him back. Marcus realized with horror the warehouse was rigged. Every crate, every wire, every device was a potential death trap, and the predator wasn't bluffing. The man laughed softly, the sound hollow and cruel. Do you see now? You're too late. She's already part of something bigger. You can save her, or you can die trying. Marcus clenched his fists, glancing at the girl. She trembled but looked at him, her eyes reflecting fear and trust all at once. He knew what he had to do. This wasn't just a rescue. It was a battle of wits, instincts, and courage against someone who thrived on control and terror. Outside, the fog swirled, hiding the city. Inside, the warehouse was a maze of shadows, wires, and deadly intent. Marcus tightened his grip on the flashlight and whispered to Rex, we protect her, no matter what. Rex growled in response, a low, fierce sound that seemed to echo against the metal walls. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the predator watched, calculating, ready to strike. The game had reached its most dangerous stage, and this time there was no turning back. Marcus's heart pounded as he scanned the warehouse. Shadows stretched across the concrete floor, crates stacked like silent sentinels, wires snaking between them like living veins. Every step he took, Rex, alert at his side, set off a chorus of small metallic clicks. Marcus's skin prickled. He knew the predator had rigged the entire building, and one wrong move could trigger disaster. The little girl clutched his jacket, her eyes wide, tracking every shadow. She could not move freely, but Marcus could feel the tension radiating from her. Somehow, even paralyzed, she was aware of danger in a way that went beyond instinct. Marcus whispered, Rex, lead the way. The dog sniffed the floor, then darted ahead cautiously, low growls vibrating through his chest. Marcus followed, taking slow, deliberate steps, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Every wire, every crate, every shadow felt alive, watching. Suddenly, a faint hissing sound came from the far corner. Marcus froze. Rex barked sharply, ears flat, hackles raised. The dog had detected something Marcus hadn't yet seen. Marcus followed Rex's gaze to a crate slightly ajar. Smoke seeped from the seams, curling like ghostly fingers. The faint chemical smell hit Marcus instantly. He recognized it from the crate at her house, a highly volatile mixture. Rex barked again, urgent and fierce, warning Marcus not to proceed. Marcus's pulse raced. He couldn't turn back. The predator was somewhere in the shadows, watching, waiting, but moving forward without care could set off the deadly trap. He glanced at the little girl. She couldn't run, she couldn't scream, but Marcus could feel her fear, raw and desperate. He whispered, we're going to get through this, I promise. Step by careful step, Marcus and Rex navigated the maze of crates and wires. Each movement sent a faint vibration across the floor, each shadow a potential threat. Marcus could almost feel the predator's presence, cold and calculating, moving silently just beyond the flashlight's beam. Then a sudden metallic clang echoed from above. Marcus ducked instinctively and Rex barked, growling at the rafters. A crate had been suspended from the ceiling by thin wires, swinging slightly as if bait. Marcus's stomach twisted. The predator had anticipated their approach, leaving traps at multiple levels, designed to catch even the most cautious intruder. A soft, mocking voice echoed through the warehouse. Careful, Officer Daniels. One false move, and you'll regret ever stepping inside. Marcus's blood ran cold. He recognized it immediately, the predator. The voice was smooth, calculated, with a chilling edge of amusement. The little girl flinched slightly, eyes locking on Marcus. He felt her silent plea. Rex growled low, stepping in front of Marcus, ears pinned, tail stiff. Marcus realized the dog had detected the predator's exact position, somewhere in the shadows, hidden but watching every movement. "You think you can outsmart me," the voice continued, cold and cruel. "You have no idea what she knows, what she's documented, and now you're trapped." Marcus's mind raced. The crates, the wires, the suspended devices, they formed a deadly maze. One wrong move could set off explosives, or worse, a chemical reaction like the one in her house. But he couldn't hesitate. The little girl's life depended on his courage, his instincts, and Rex's unparalleled senses. He whispered to Rex, "Lead us through, boy, watch every step." The dog growled in agreement, sniffing the floor, then darting forward, careful and precise. Marcus followed, eyes scanning the shadows for the faintest movement. Then as they approached the far wall, the predator made a critical mistake. A shadow flickered too quickly. Rex lunged, teeth snapping, and the predator let out a startled curse. Marcus seized the moment, rushing forward, guiding the little girl through a narrow gap between two crates. The predator's voice rang out, furious and sharp. "No, you don't understand. This was supposed to be mine." But Marcus didn't stop. Rex stayed close, growling, guiding them through the maze, step by step, each narrow corridor bringing them closer to the exit. Sparks flickered from exposed wires, crates teetered dangerously, but Marcus's determination never wavered. Finally, they reached a small door at the back of the warehouse. Marcus kicked it open, and cold night air rushed in. The little girl's eyes widened in relief, and for the first time she managed a small, hopeful smile. Outside, Marcus held her close, heart racing, watching as the predator's voice faded in the distance, powerless for now. Rex barked triumphantly, tail wagging cautiously, still alert to any hidden threats. Marcus knew the predator was not gone, far from it, but for this moment they had survived. They had escaped the deadly maze, and the little girl, silent and brave, had endured horrors most adults couldn't imagine. As Marcus looked at her, feeling the weight of what they had survived, he whispered softly, "You're safe now, for tonight at least." But deep in the shadows, the predator watched, silent and patient. The game was far from over. The fog had thickened into a near-white haze, wrapping the city in silence. Marcus tightened his grip on the little girl who sat quietly in the back of the cruiser, her tiny hand brushing against Rex's fur. Every nerve in his body screamed that the predator wasn't finished. He knew this was no ordinary criminal. This was someone calculating, patient, and terrifyingly intelligent. And tonight, Marcus vowed, it would end. Detective Harris's voice crackled over the radio. "Marcus, we traced the microchip in the hospital device. It pinged from an old textile factory on the east side. Looks abandoned, but all signs point to one thing, the predator's lair." Marcus's jaw tightened. "We're going in," he said firmly. Rex growled in agreement, a low, steady sound that matched the rising tension in Marcus's chest. The factory loomed ahead, massive and decrepit, windows broken, rust eating through steel beams. Shadows stretched across the walls, hiding secrets Marcus knew were waiting for them inside. He parked the cruiser and carefully lifted the little girl onto his shoulder, holding her protectively. Rex ran ahead, moving like a silent sentinel, nose to the ground, ears twitching at every distant sound. Inside, the factory smelled of rust, decay, and something faintly chemical, the same smell from the crate at her house, from the warehouse maze. The predator's presence was palpable. Marcus could feel it, a cold, intelligent energy watching them, anticipating their every move. Then a voice broke the silence, smooth, calculated, and mocking. "So predictable, Officer Daniels. You always rush to save, never pause to think." Marcus froze, his heart thudded in his chest. The predator stepped from the shadows, a tall figure in black, thin but with an aura of control that radiated menace. He held a small, black device in his hand, wires snaking across it. Marcus recognized it immediately. It was another crate mechanism, rigged to explode if triggered improperly. "You," Marcus said through gritted teeth, "it ends tonight." The predator smiled thinly. "Does it? You see, she's been invaluable. The notes, the observations, she's helped me understand patterns, predict behaviors, and now, because of you, she knows too much. That's why we play this final game." Rex growled, advancing slightly, teeth bared, hackles raised. The predator's eyes flicked to the dog, then back to Marcus, calculating his next move. Marcus scanned the room. Crates and devices were stacked everywhere, wires connecting them in a deadly web. One wrong step and the factory could become a tomb. But he couldn't hesitate. The little girl's life depended on action, on courage, on speed. He whispered to Rex, "Watch me, guide us through." The dog barked softly, circling ahead, leading Marcus toward a narrow corridor, away from the predator's line of sight. The predator laughed, sharp and cruel, clever but futile. He pressed a button on the device and a low hum filled the air. The crates were activating, chemicals reacting, a deadly countdown invisible to the eye but screaming through the room. Marcus felt the girl cling tighter, whispering softly to calm her. He calculated rapidly. The devices were unstable. Any explosion, any jolt could be catastrophic. His eyes met the predator's, calculating, cold and cruel. The man's focus was absolute. With a deep breath, Marcus made his move. He kicked a nearby metal beam, sending a sharp clang that drew the predator's attention. Rex bolted from the corridor, teeth snapping, growling ferociously, distracting the predator long enough for Marcus to rush with the girl toward the rear exit. Sparks flew from the crates, wires snapping under the tension. The predator cursed, lunging for them, but Rex intercepted, teeth snapping at the man's hand. A struggle erupted, chaos and noise echoing through the factory. Marcus sprinted, heart hammering, clutching the little girl. They reached the rear door, sunlight and cold air flooding in. He stumbled, almost falling, but Rex leapt beside him, steadying them, blocking the predator from following. Outside, Marcus didn't stop running until the factory was far behind. Only then did he set the girl down, breathing hard. Her eyes, wide with fear, met his. And for the first time she smiled, a fragile, victorious smile that spoke volumes. Detective Harris arrived minutes later, arrest team in tow. The predator was captured, trapped by his own devices and Marcus's quick thinking. The crates and wires were neutralized, chemicals contained, and the threat extinguished. Marcus knelt beside the girl, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's over, you're safe now," he whispered. She reached up, her small hand touching his cheek, a silent thank you that carried more weight than any words. Rex nudged her gently, tail wagging cautiously. Marcus exhaled, the tension of the past days finally easing, though he knew the scars of fear would take time to heal. Somewhere deep in the city, shadows still lingered, but tonight Marcus, the little girl, and Rex had won. And as they walked toward the waiting ambulance, Marcus realized that courage, instinct, and trust, sometimes silent, sometimes unspoken, could defeat even the most calculating darkness. The predator had been revealed, the game had ended, and for the first time in days, the city felt safe again.